In this video, I want to talk about some of the stuff that's at the end of this chapter on mind. In particular, second-order beliefs, which Appia talks about in section 1.11. And then this guy, Stich, who Appia talks about only briefly, but it's kind of important, on page 34 and maybe also on page 35. Okay, so second-order beliefs are part of functionalism. You should have a good grasp of functionalism by this point. And they're designed to deal with this problem. So the problem, here I'm looking on, well, whatever page this is, the beginning of section 1.9. And so Appia says, but from the phenomenological point of view, which denied that machines could have minds, functionalism doesn't look so attractive. For if functionalism is right, and to have a mind is to have certain internal states that function in a certain way, then anything that has states that function the right way has a mind. That seems to have the consequence that if a computer had internal states that function in the right way, it would have a mind, and the phenomenologist says this is quite wrong. It isn't enough to have internal states that lead you to respond in the right way. You must also have an inner life. That inner life is to have the sort of character that Descartes thought it had. It is to have a conscious mental life. Okay, and so Appia talks more about this problem in this section 1.9 and the next section. But let's get to section 11 here. So this is on page 31. So what should the functionalist say is the characteristic feature of conscious mental states? And so then Appia goes into the stuff about second-order beliefs. Conscious states are the states of our minds about which we currently have beliefs. They are the ones we are currently aware of. So in particular, a conscious belief that it is raining will be present on this account when I believe that I currently believe that it is raining. Let's call a belief about your own current mental state a second-order belief. All right, so let's spell this out a little more carefully so you understand it. Okay, so let's say it's raining outside, and so you see that, let's say, and so that causes the belief that it's raining. So this thing here, it's raining in the box, is the belief that it's raining. So now then the idea is that this is unconscious, but it causes or it can cause this second-order belief. And so this is the belief that I have the belief that it's raining. Okay, so the idea here is that the belief that it's raining causes or can cause this second-order belief. And this second-order belief is going to be the belief that I have the belief that it's raining. So the idea is here you're aware of this first-order belief that you have down here. And the second-order belief is conscious, the one you're aware of having, and the first-order belief is unconscious. So, the fact that it's raining outside caused, sort of outside of your awareness, the belief that it's raining. But, so, if you're just sitting at your desk, working on your philosophy, you're not thinking that it's raining, but say someone asks you what's going on outside, you would say, oh, it's raining. It would just immediately, you'd be able to form the belief that you believe that it's raining, this one up here. Okay, so then let's expand this picture a little more. Okay, so let's say you also have the desire to stay dry, and this desire causes the belief, again, the second-order belief up here, the belief that I have the desire to stay dry. So again, this is conscious, and this is unconscious, a desire that you have, but you're unaware of. It's not in your mind. That is, or it's not in your mind until you form the second-order belief. All right, so this picture kind of makes sense that we can have the belief that it's raining, but be unaware of it, but then have the belief that we're, have the belief that we believe that it's raining, and that's what we're conscious of, that's what we're aware of. And likewise, the desire to stay dry isn't something that you would always have on your mind, but you can form the belief when required, the belief that I do have the desire to stay dry. And then if we wanted to, we could add something like, we have this, I don't know if the belief or what, but thought, decision to stay inside, and so those two are, these two here cause this desire. The conscious belief that it's raining outside and the conscious desire to stay dry, those second order beliefs, they cause the decision to stay inside, which is also, so let's say this is unconscious. But then it causes a conscious desire to, or not a conscious desire, but a conscious belief, the belief that I decided to stay inside. So this is, again, the one that's conscious, second order, the second order belief. All right, so, well, as I just said, on the one hand, this kind of makes sense that we can have these mental states that we're unaware of, and also then the mental states that are about those other mental states, and the second order ones are the ones we're aware of. It also, as we get down here, gets a little messy. That is, this, as we kind of add or flesh out how our actions are based on not only the first order but also the second order beliefs. Things get a little messy, but that's kind of a result of this being a repair to this problem that the phenomenologists have brought up, sort of an addition to functionalism to speak to this issue regarding consciousness. Okay, then let's look at what the phenomenologists will say about these second order beliefs. So this is the top of page 33. Appia says, an account of consciousness of this generally functionalist kind is likely to produce some impatience in the phenomenologists. For the apparatus of second order states that are produced by other current states and that shape the behavior of a system by changing or maintaining its own mental states, could obviously be produced in an android. As I have already pointed out, M certainly has the full range of behavior that your mother has, including answering questions and going to see what the time is. Perhaps the phenomenologists could concede the functionalist account of consciousness captures something about consciousness, just as their account of belief, that its role in shaping behavior, captures something about belief, but it leaves out entirely the phenomenological character of consciousness, what it feels like to be your mother or me or anyone else with consciousness. Okay, so Appia says a little more there about that, but I'll let you look at that yourselves. Next, I want to look at Stich. Okay, so here we're looking at page 34. Appia says, another more fundamental line of objection would be to ask why we take it for granted that we have such internal states as beliefs and sensations at all. Okay, then he says a little more there in that paragraph, but I want to look at this next paragraph. The contemporary American philosopher Stephen Stich has suggested that we may indeed have to do just this, that is, rethink how we explain the mind or rethink how we explain what causes our behavior. He has examined a good deal of recent work in cognitive psychology, the branch of the subject that seeks to explain how we perceive, remember, reason, decide, and then act by postulating internal processes very like those in a computer program. Stich argues that there is already a good deal of evidence from cognitive psychology that our folk psychological theory is just plain wrong. In fact, he thinks that it may even turn out that there is simply nothing at all inside our heads that operates in the way that our folk psychology of beliefs and desires supposes. If that is true, then we would have no beliefs or desires. Okay, so here, let me just give you an example of the sort of problem that Stich has in mind, or that motivates this idea that we should give up thinking about beliefs and desires and thoughts and emotions and all that stuff. So here's an example. Okay, so one of the complaints that Stich has about using beliefs and desires and all that stuff in order to explain how the mind works is an example like this. So if two people have the belief that there's a black cat in the next room, but one of those people is a sighted person, just a person who can see normally, and one of those people is a blind person, then although sort of intuitively our common sense thought would be that both these people, if they have the belief that there's a black cat in the next room, if they acknowledge that they have that belief, that we'd be inclined to say that they do have the same belief, or intuitively the belief is the same for both of them. But as Stich points out, there's going to be so many facets of how so many other internal mental states that interact with this belief that there's a black cat in the next room. For instance, beliefs about or mental states about color, about what cats look like, dog barking, what cats feel like, and what their fur is like, what they sound like, et cetera, et cetera. There's going to be so many other internal mental states that causally interact with the belief that there's a black cat in the room, and recall how that functionalism defines every belief in terms of how it interacts, how it functions with respect to other internal states, that there's simply no way that the blind person and the sighted person can share the same belief that there's a black cat in the next room. So our intuitive thought that they can share the same belief can't be right, at least according to functionalism. So Stich's idea is that we should keep a version of functionalism, but one that doesn't use terms like belief, desire, thought, pain, fear, all these kind of common sense mental terms that we attribute to ourselves, that we think are inside our heads. In fact, Stich's idea is that we should be using elements in the functional program, in this mental theory, that is this explanation of how our minds work, that are not that meaningful to us. So rather than talking about beliefs, desires, all that stuff, our theory of the mind should look more like a actual real computer program. So say it's something like this. Something like this, which isn't that meaningful to us, or isn't something that we can easily understand, but might be able to explain our behavior just as well, or even better than the kind of functionalist theories that we're talking about here. Okay, with the computer program, this stuff isn't so important. The important idea is that Stich is suggesting that we explain the mind without talking about beliefs and desires, which we've been doing for several sections in this chapter. Okay, so there's a little bit more to read in this chapter. I'll let you do that, and I'll end this here.